What if I told you there was a miracle chord in Encanto? What I mean is a chord that shows up every time the word
miracle,
the miracle,
miracle, the miracle,
miracle,
miracle, miracle
is sung in the lyrics. Well, that's basically what songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda did in Encanto, except there's a twist. The miracle chord changes in meaning over the course of the film as the characters change their point of view on what the miracle means to them. This is how the miracle chord works. First of all, how many times does the word miracle show up in the lyrics of Encanto? It's in the Family Madrigal when Abuela enters singing,
"We swear to always help those around us and earn the miracle."
In Waiting on a Miracle, Mirabel sings the word miracle 8 times.
Waiting on a miracle.
In the song Dos Oruguitas, the English word miracle isn't sung because the song is in Spanish, but the Spanish language equivalent, milagro, or the plural milagros, is sung a total of 9 times. And in All of You, the word miracle is sung 3 times, again by Abuela,
"The miracle is you,"
who was the first person to sing it, thus providing a bookend to the way this word is used in the entire Encanto song score. And each time the word miracle is sung, the miracle chord isn't too far behind either. Well, each time except in Dos Oruguitas, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We will get there. But first, what is the miracle chord? Every time the word miracle is sung in English, we get the miracle chord, this chord.
Waiting on a miracle.
The borrowed minor 4 chord. Okay, but what does the borrowed minor 4 chord mean exactly? To explain, I've asked Cuchna of the Dissect podcast for some help.
All right, what's up, Howard? What do you need to know?
He has another podcast called Keynotes, where he analyzes different music concepts and how they are used in songs. His episode on the borrowed minor 4 chord is called The Most Beautiful Chord Ever.
I think it's one of the more kind of powerful magic tricks, harmony has to offer.
Obviously, it's a special chord, but what makes this chord so special?
What makes you so special?
In the case of the borrowed minor 4 chord, this has often been used for a sad effect. Here,
So be it, I'm your crowbar.
and here, and here.
I don't have anything.
More recently, Cuchna found another one when he tweeted out about Childish Gambino's new song, Sticky, which again goes to the borrowed minor 4 chord.
The technical explanation is that in each key signature, you have a set of 7 standard chords, which are kind of your just traditional major minor chords, 1 diminished chord in there, but these are kind of like your basic coloring crayons in your box. And you have 7 coloring crayons to work with, and there's been thousands upon millions of songs that have utilized just those 7 standard chords and made brilliant, beautiful songs. Like, you don't need technically anything outside of that. But if you want a different shade, one technique composers use is borrowed chords, which is essentially taking a chord from a different key signature, or in this case, a minor key signature, borrowing one of those chords that should be in that key and taking it and using it in a key that technically doesn't belong in, right? I equate that in my mind to taking another color crayon outside of your box. And if you know what you're doing with that color crayon, you can use it to set your piece of music a little bit off. It's an unexpected moment of harmony, which is utilized in a number of ways. And the best ways, I think, are like to arrest you emotionally.
And it's all about the one note in the chord that makes the minor 4 minor, the flat 6 note, which wants to resolve down to the 5th. A resolution that Adam Neely describes as
that movement from the flat 6 to the 5 has a very particular bittersweet, forlorn quality.
That bittersweet, forlorn quality is even emphasized when it appears in Dos Oruguitas as part of a descending bass, which is sometimes also known as a lament bass, for the ways in which it can symbolize sadness. And as the lament bass descends, it reaches the flat 6 note on the minor 4 chord before resolving down to the 5th on the home key. But then that raises the question, why the concept of a miracle, which usually connotates something positive and happy and magical,
Wonder of wonders, miracle of miracles,
would be represented by something so musically sad? Well, it turns out there's a very good reason for this. That resolution,
flat 6 to the 5,
is often used the way Adam Neely just used it, as part of the minor 4 chord resolving back to the major 1 chord, also known as the home chord. So it's fitting that the borrowed minor 4 chord, the Miracle Chord, takes us home because it is the miracle of the Encanto which literally gave our characters a home, the Casita. This idea of the miracle leading us home is important in Encanto, which is why the borrowed minor 4 chord can be found whenever we hear the word miracle being sung.
And earn the miracle that somehow found us. The town keeps growing.
Waiting on a miracle.
Not some gift, just you. The miracle is you.
By the way, these graphics I've been using come from the music website Hooktheory, an educational platform designed to make music theory accessible and practical for everyone. It features tons of resources powered by their database of over 30,000 chord and melody analyses for popular songs you know and love. You can see that it graphically shows you the melody, the chords underneath, a grid to visually see the rhythm, and a keyboard which will illustrate how to play the melody or the chords note by note for yourself. And luckily for me, Hooktheory is today's sponsor, so I am promoting them in the best way I know how, by showing you how I use their website and how you can too. Additionally, they also offer the Hooktheory Skills Bundle, which includes the training game Chord Crush and HookPad, a songwriting sketchpad with a built-in music theory engine that makes smart suggestions in real time, so you can always find the next best note or chord for your song. Hooktheory is great whether you're a seasoned musician or a beginner, and even if all of this still looks unapproachable, Hooktheory has you covered with its books feature that teaches you music theory lessons from basic to more advanced concepts. If you go to hooktheory.com/HowardHo, you can enjoy 20% off the Hooktheory Skills Bundle and your first year of Chord Crush Premium at the link in the description. Again, go to hooktheory.com/HowardHo for 20% off and you'll be helping out my channel as well. Now back to the video. In the Family Madrigal, Abuela sings
And earn the miracle that somehow found us.
and the Miracle Chord can be heard over the words,
The town keeps growing.
we're not exactly sure why the town growing gets placed over a sad bittersweet chord like the minor 4. It's only later that we learn that Abuela is singing this melody based on the song Dos Oruguitas. This technique of hinting at a later song using a fragment from it is what Lin calls a preprise, where a reprise is a callback to a song
We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no.
after it has been fully introduced.
Okay, so we gonna talk about Bruno.
A preprise calls forward to a song that will be introduced later. Lin uses a preprise in The Heights for the song Siempre to make it seem like that song has always existed. And that's also true for Dos Oruguitas,
But I wrote this song called Dos Oruguitas. I wanted to write a folk song that feels like it's always existed.
which is a song that is supposed to date back at the very least to when Abuela and Pedro first meet. What this means is that for Abuela, the sadness she associates with Dos Oruguitas is the same sadness she associates with the time period when the miracle first appeared. For Abuela, Dos Oruguitas is about loss and holding on to what she has. Yes, the town growing is a wonderful thing, but at what cost? She lost her home and her husband to war. So given the price she paid, the growth of the town and her new home will always be bittersweet to her. Hence, the minor 4 chord perfectly represents the sadness that had to happen in order for her to find her new home. And that feeling motivates her to make it her mission to keep the miracle going
Each new generation must keep the miracle burning.
in order to be worthy of more miracles and thus avoid sadness and loss in the future. And she's passed on that mission to Mirabel, who also views the miracle as something she must earn
I will save the miracle.
by doing something worthy of it. Like Abuela, Mirabel views the miracle with sadness, but for a slightly different reason. To Mirabel, the miracle is something that she isn't a part of because she was not given a traditional gift. So each time she sings the lyric,
Waiting on a miracle,
we hear that melody followed by a minor 4 chord, symbolizing the way the miracle makes her feel sad that she isn't enough. And yes, Abuela and Mirabel actually have a lot of other aspects in common too. See my video on How We Don't Talk About Bruno Works for more about that. But it makes sense that Abuela and Mirabel would have similar views of the miracle as having this negative association. They both view the miracle as something pressuring them into perfectly living up to it, earning it, being enough for it. Yet that is not the only way to view the miracle, or the miracle chord as it turns out. We get our first hint of this in the song,
what else can I do?
Isabela is challenging Abuela's idea that the miracle demands perfection.
Tonight must go perfectly.
It's a perfect night.
Perfect Isabela. Such a perfect match.
So perfect.
Something which cinema therapy calls toxic perfectionism. But eventually, Isabela wonders if there's another way to view the miracle.
What could I do if I just knew it didn't need to be perfect?
Not as something to serve, but as something that could serve her and help her express her true identity, warts and all.
It's not symmetrical or perfect, but it's beautiful, and it's mine.
A blossoming, if you will. That's why the minor 4 chord appears in What Else Can I Do on such lyrics as, for Isabela, the miracle chord isn't sad but represents a moment where she pushes through the negativity and Abuela's iron grip control in order to find joy, freedom, and a sense of self. This very different use of the miracle chord reimagines the miracle not as something to be worthy of with strings attached, but as something she is already unconditionally worthy of. But that's probably why she never actually sings the word miracle. She's taking the miracle chord and giving it a different context. And if you think about it, Isabela's use of the miracle chord makes a lot of sense. Remember our 2 crayon boxes? Well, it's as if Isabela has made a breakthrough to be able to access a second set of colors, a second set of chords that she never had access to before. I mean, she's literally throwing around these exciting new colors. And it's this reinterpretation of the miracle that we then learn is the actual original intent of the miracle chord from the song from where it all began, Dos Oruguitas. And in that song, the Spanish word for miracle, milagro, or miracles, milagros, is not followed by the miracle chord at all either. Because here, the miracle chord does not underscore the sad past Abuela associates with it. In fact, the miracle chord carries a very different meaning. In my video on Dos Oruguitas, I made a big deal about how this shot of the Madrigal triplet babies is perfectly underscored by a triplet harp melody. But what I didn't mention was that the chord this harp melody is rooted in is the borrowed minor 4 chord. It's even more apparent if you play it with the chords underneath. Yes, the miracle of the miracle chord was never some magical candle bestowing magical powers in a magical house. The miracle was life itself growing and surviving in spite of the war and chaos around it. The miracle literally was Abuela's babies. Hence, every time you hear the minor 4 chord in Dos Oruguitas, the lyrics are describing a different aspect of life growing.
Siguen creciendo, volver hacia adelante seguirás y construir su propio futuro.
So in this scene, when Abuela remembers the original meaning of Dos Oruguitas, she finally hears the minor 4 chord for what it is originally, a hope that her children will grow and find their own way. That's why in the song, All of You, Abuela brings back the minor 4 chord, but this time with the miracle redefined.
The miracle is not some magic that you've got. The miracle is you, not some gift, just you. The miracle is you.
It is no longer about loss, sadness, or trying to be enough, but simply about embracing her children who were already by definition enough and worthy of the miracle. Because the true miracle that makes the casita a home is not magic, it's people. People who contain multitudes. Hence why Abuela's journey to embrace
All of you,
or in other words, all of her children's imperfections, is symbolized by this borrowed minor 4 chord, which similarly is something that doesn't quite fit in the standard crayon box, but which represents a breakthrough to the more multitudinous aspects of oneself.
Bittersweet.
Literally, the minor 4 chord is bittersweet, containing both a negative feeling and a positive one simultaneously. And that's why, just as the miracle is redefined for Abuela, the casita is redefined as well. From the rubble, the new casita, Casita 2.0, is not built with magic at all, but instead comes from the people of the town teaming together to rebuild it, all of it, on their own, showing that this whole time their sense of community and family and home was always the true miracle. And that's how the miracle chord works in Encanto. Thanks for watching. I'd also like to thank Cuchna of the Dissect podcast. Please subscribe and see you next time.